It's crazy. My setup is pretty standard, and then the ultra lightweight people, like I said, are just cold soaking their food. But what you eat out there and the gear that you carry and use to prepare it, it's important. If you don't eat well, you don't hike. I've never been so aware of how what I put in my body affects how I perform than when I'm on the trail. What you eat matters. It depends. It's going to affect how you hike the next day. Lots of super light stuff. There's Norsides, minute rice, ramen noodles, and then some source of protein like cheese or the foil packets of tuna, the foil packets of chicken. Those are really popular. We did pretty well, I think. It can be mundane. It's like the same things pretty much every night.
Doesn't matter. You're too hungry.
You just eat it. One of our favorites was ramen bomb, which is ramen noodles and mashed potato flakes. Pour that in there, and it sounds gross now, but at the time it was really, really good. What's for dinner? Ramen bomb. All right. The canisters, MSR makes them. They're basically a propane butane mix called Isopro, and you got to watch which brand you get, because some of them, when it gets cold, the gases inside separate and it doesn't burn as well. It doesn't burn hot or burn at all. So you either have to get 4-season fuel or put your canister in your sleeping bag with you so that it's warm in the morning when you want to use it and you can cook. It's tricky though. You're not supposed to mail this stuff, and depending on where you're hiking in the world, they don't have canister fuel in the Baja California. They don't have canister fuel in the Golan Heights. So you have to, like Lynn said, I was a medic when I was in the Army, and I was always afraid that someone was going to get hurt or need help, and I wouldn't be able to help them for lack of the right supplies. But I soon realized you don't need it. No one was getting hurt around me. I was carrying this 3-pound first aid kit. I sent it all home. Nowadays, all I have is what's up here. I have a small, sharp pair of scissors. I have some Luca tape, which you guys can check out. This is for blisters and sores and stuff like that. Jackie went through a couple rolls of this. I have a pair of tweezers and one sewing needle. I have a safety pin and some dental floss. And one, usually I'll put like a few aspirin, a bunch of Motrin, maybe some Benadryl in case you have an allergic reaction, but just a few pills in here. And that's it. That's my first aid kit. If it's anything worse than that, can't help you. And I see people carry, some people even less than that, some people more. It just depends. Good time, because I want to talk about planning for a hike. It's one of my favorite aspects of hiking, and it usually starts for me, I hear about a trail from a friend or another hiker. The next step in planning for me is I start looking for apps. Navigational apps have revolutionized long distance hiking. Most people say for the better, some people say for the worse. The thing about apps on your phone for navigation, for me, it provides an extra layer of safety. For example, Far Out, which used to be Atlas Guides, which used to be Gut Hooks. Most people refer to it as Gut Hooks. You might have heard that. But they changed their company name again to Far Out, and they have maps for all the big trails in the United States, some trails international. Now they're including like kayak, waterways and stuff. Very cool company. And what's great about their app is even when you're way out there and you have no cell signal whatsoever, you can still know where you are in relation to the trail. You can see your little dot. It uses your phone's GPS to show where you are and where the trail is. And that's the main thing you need to know, is how to get back to the trail. The problem with it is people rely just on the app, and then they lose their phone or they drop it in a river and they have no backup. So if you use an app for navigation, in my mind, you have to carry a paper map and compass, and you have to know how to use them. So, one way or another, have some sort of backup. I am notorious for losing and destroying phones on the trail. It's happened to me like 6 times before, and I'm always glad to have backup paper map and compass. There's other apps out there. Gaia is a popular one. Map Out is one. You guys have all seen them, but Far Out or Gut Hooks is the best one to me. Another great aspect of it is you can leave comments in there. You can leave real-time comments, and you can check those. So you're hiking along, on the Appalachian Trail, for example, and you looking far out and you're like, oh, the next water source is dry, or the trail's closed ahead, or that little town doesn't have a post office, we thought it did. You know, notes from other hikers about what's going on the trail, the most current information, it's invaluable. And I bought this book because the Pocket PCT, it's just topography, it's elevation and a few of the major landmarks, and it was light, and it really helped me a lot on that trail. And when I was out there, I heard that the author, Paul Bodner, was also on the trail that year. And I met he and his wife at the famous El Cajon McDonald's, like 800 miles into the Pacific Crest Trail. And I asked them to sign my book. It was a little bit corny, but they were just the nicest couple. And I remember asking Paul back then, I said, you know, if I was gonna get a GPS unit, what kind would you get? You know, a Garmin, or what would you go with? And he said, none. I'd use my phone. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he said, we hooked up with this guy, his name's Paul, but he goes by the trail name Guthook, and we're developing apps specifically for hiking. And they became Guthooks, and now they're called Far Out. And they've been very generous to me over the years. And I'm proud to have known them all the way back from 2012, so check out Far Out. One big decision you need to make when you're planning for a hike is resupply. So you can either buy along the way, or you can have resupply boxes sent to you. It depends where in the world you're at. The advantages to having boxes sent to you are, number one, you can get pretty much exactly what you need or what you're used to. You know, the brand of rice, or you know, batteries, or the section, you know, the maps that you need for that section. Whoever's helping you, whoever your resupply coordinator is, can put in the box the very specific things that you need, and it's great. Getting a box is a good thing. The bad part about it is, number one, it's expensive to send these boxes, and number two, you're depending on the U.S. Postal Service for the success of your hike, which is increasingly not a good idea. I got burned several times getting to a post office in a little tiny town on a Friday, and I'm like, I'm here for my resupply box, and they're like, oh, it didn't come. So you're not going anywhere till you need at the time. You know, you come upon a store and you know the next little town is 6 days away. I only need 6 days worth of food. Whereas in a resupply box, you sometimes get more than you need to the next stop. But they might not have the selection. Maybe you only have like a Citgo station and you got to resupply for 10 days out of there. So you're like Snickers bars and, you know, whatever else. So we don't always have a very good selection if you're buying along the way. But in countries like Ecuador and Mexico and Israel, it's the only way to do it. I couldn't have boxes sent there. I'm currently planning to attempt a through hike of the Arizona Trail. On or about March 15th, I'm going to fly to Tucson, Arizona, and I'm going to hitchhike to the tiny town of Sierra Vista down here. And then I found a guy online who says he's got a jacked up Jeep, and for 75 bucks, he'll take me to the trailhead. He said he'll take me to the trailhead, and he'll give me a grilled cheese and a beer. So can't beat that. So the plan would be to get down here and then walk north for 800 miles. This trail is almost exactly 800 miles to the border with Utah. It's serious desert hiking, obviously, but I have pretty good desert hiking experience. You get to hike right through the Grand Canyon. So part of it includes they call the Rim to Rim Trail, which is down the south wall of the Grand Canyon. You camp at the bottom, and then you climb up the north wall, which I just, the pictures I've seen look phenomenal. So I'm super excited about that. But it's gonna be a trick. Like I said, 800 miles. So for me, when I look at all of my hikes, I hike about 100 miles a week. That's, you know, about my norm. So this should take me about 8 weeks. I'm going to allow 10 weeks because of travel and any contingencies, or if I get injured or whatever. So like I said, 8 weeks for me. The best day hikes. He said the author is through hike the whole trail. It's broken down into sections, great topographical information. Another friend told me that the complete guide to the Arizona National Scenic Trail, I got both these books. And this might answer my problem of paper map and compass. You know, I'll have the Far Out app for the trail, but I need backup paper map and compass. And in here, I think what I can do is, this is loaded with maps. I might be able to either cut out these actual pages or make copies of them, but this would be a great backup. If I can have the whole trail, you know, maybe front and back, laser printed, so so I can read it. I don't think I'll need the topographical information, but if I lose my phone, as I inevitably will, I'll have a paper map and compass as a backup. Of interest, as I'm researching this trail, I was asking the more experienced hikers, what do you use for backup, for paper map and compass? None of them carry paper map and compass. They're like, I just use your phone. I said, yeah, but I lose my phone. I fall in rivers, it gets soaked, it's just, I have problems with phones. But most other hikers are not carrying the paper map and compass, at least for that trail. Yeah, I got some forums online. I went to the obligatory Facebook 2022 Arizona Trail Through Hikers page. I met people there. So I'm in the process of planning. I have my own gear obviously already, so that's not a big issue. But the travel, the permits, I need permits for Saguaro National Park and for Grand Canyon. All those things are going to require careful planning and thought and communication. So I better get cracking. I intend to leave on or about March 15th. That's coming right up. So you'll have to wish me luck with that one. Generally speaking, bikes yield to hikers, everyone yield to horses, is the best way to say it. Meaning, if you're on a hiking trail, mountain bikers are supposed to at least slow down, technically get off and walk their bike. They don't usually go that far, but it's nice that they just kind of slow down. The worst thing is coming up a hill and some crazy mountain biker comes flying over the opposite way. He's got earbuds in so he can't hear you, and it's risky. I mean, he could run right into you. Or a bike that comes flying up behind you, without a ring or anything. And now, if you're hiking on a trail that's designed for mountain bikes, well, that's a different thing. But generally speaking, bikes are supposed to yield to hikers. Uphill takes right of way. When you're hiking up a hill, especially if you're under load, especially if you have a pack on, people going downhill need to step off the trail and move to the side. And not everyone knew that on the Appalachian Trail, and it drove me crazy a couple times. You just same thing with groups. Big groups yield to individuals or couples. If you're coming up to a group of 20 people, they're supposed to get off and stand inside the trail and let you through. But that also was not the case. Also, don't stand or take a break in the middle of the trail. Don't blow up your pack in the middle of the trail. And for goodness sake, don't camp in the middle of the trail. People set up their tent on the trail, and it's ridiculous. So don't get caught with any of those rookie moves. Be considerate of other people. Yield to uphill hikers. And like I said, everyone yields to horses. Not such a big deal around here, except that trail I mentioned earlier, that short trail, that is an equestrian trail. So you'll see horses there. Also the Pacific Crest Trail is an equestrian trail, lots of pack animals, lots of horseback riders. And basically step up to the side of the trail, I take off my hat, and I usually verbally greet the rider and then wait for their instructions. They usually want you to stand a little bit on the upside of the trail, and the whole point is, don't spook the animal. That's the whole thing. It's a big giant animal, and no one wants it to fall, no one wants to get hurt. So if there's other hikers around, if you're doing a big trail, hikers go to sleep, just about at sunset. Sometimes 7, 8 p.m. they're out, and it's not cool to come into campsite later or after dark and make a lot of noise and start a fire and shine your headlamp all over the place. We'd be in places where there was sometimes 40 or 50 other tents, and people would come in and with their headlamp on and shine it on all the tents. They're looking at the tents and they're trying to find a spot, and when you're in the tent, it blows, the whole thing lights up. You feel like it's a prison break or something like that. Don't do that. Either put it on red if it has a red light setting, or I just wear it around my neck and just kind of cover it with my hand, or just hold it so I can see when I'm walking. But you don't want to light up everyone's tent. Same in the shelters on the Appalachian Trail. Turn it to the red setting, or just try to keep it down. What are the things bothered me in camps?
Hike at midnight, 9 o'clock.
Yeah, people talking and just coming in late and talking. Sometimes you don't know. I remember one night that we camped with a few other people, and we saw these young. Leave no trace. This is only 6. There's actually 7 principles. There's actually 8 principles now. The new 8th principle is be responsible with social media. If you go to a place that's super popular and teetering on overcrowded, don't make it worse by taking a selfie there and posting it all over Instagram, drawing even more crowds. They want you to post responsibly, I guess. But leave no trace is important to me. And you know, even with as much as we know, I remember just a couple years ago, coming to a campsite. It was around lunchtime. There was a water source there. I was cooking up, and there was a father-daughter. There was like 3 father-daughter teams that had all camped overnight, and they were packing up their stuff. And they were polite to me. They asked me, "What are you doing?" "Oh, you're hiking the Appalachian Trail, great." And they had a smoldering fire that had clearly just gone out, and they said, "Okay, well, bye," and they started walking away. And I normally try not to correct other people about leave no trace. I mean, it's all I can do to follow the principles myself without policing other people. But I couldn't help but say, hey, it's 60 years of Smokey the Bear, and you're going to walk away from a campfire that's still, what are you thinking? You know, but I took the opportunity. I had these little laminated cards that had the leave no trace principles, and I said to the young ladies, I said, you are the future outdoor enthusiasts. These old guys don't know what they're doing. Take these cards, and on the way home, coach them up. Tell them why it's not okay to leave a fire burning, why it's not okay to leave your trash on the trail. You know, these are important concepts to me. And the first one is plan ahead and prepare. The first leave no trace principle is plan ahead and prepare, which is what we're talking about right now. I want to talk about risk when you go on these long distance hikes. Sometimes I'm guilty of showing a bunch of flowery, fun pictures, and I think the audience gets some audience members may get the perception that, oh, it's all fun out there, it's always sunny, and it's great. It's not always sunny. It rains sometimes it's really, really difficult. And by going out there, you assume some risk. Now, I tend to look at risk in terms of possibility versus probability. For example, before Jackie and I left for the Appalachian Trail, we knew about Lyme disease. In fact, if you look at the Centers for Disease Control, their occurrence of Lyme disease, you know, they put a little red dot every time on cases. It looks like DAT. You know, it's just right up and down the East Coast like that. So we used tons of DEET. We did not use permethrin on our clothes, which we probably should have. We both got bit by dozens of ticks, like all AT hikers do. But Jackie got Lyme disease. She had symptoms that seemed like the onset was pretty quick to me. Just one day she said, "I don't feel right, I'm going home." And I said, "Wait, whoa, no rash decisions. You know, just there's a town in 3 days. Let's hike to the town, and if you still don't feel well, go home from there." And she said, "It's already in motion. My mom and my sister are coming to get me. Probably my mom and my daughter are coming to get me." And she left. It felt like just like that. And man, am I glad that she paid attention to her symptoms, because when she got home, you know, if you Google Lyme disease, it has this little animation. This is her shoulder. And 7 months ago, and she's still struggling and seeing rheumatologists, infectious disease doctors, and you know, I'm just trying to say that when you go out there, you assume some risk, and it's up to you to know the risks and to, you know, decide if it's take precautions.
Use permethrin. Use the checked body.
Yeah, those are, you know, we
Doesn't
weren't.
happen to everybody. I was just unfortunate. That's all.
Yeah, and 7 months later, you're still
Yeah.
paying for it. So
Be careful.
yeah, I mean, I've gotten hurt out there. I broke a rib in 2011 and screwed up my thumb this last time through. You know, you could fall, you could hurt yourself. I'm fond of saying if there's no risk, it's not really an adventure. But you have to be serious about it. You have to think about the risks that you're incurring by going out there. I'll talk for a few minutes about my sponsors, because there have been some companies, especially Moose Jaw Mountaineering, who have been very generous to me over the years, and I am grateful to them, especially that guy in the back. This picture is from 10 years ago, Tom. So caps up there. I've had this one forever, and they are just very cool people, and they've been very generous to me. I wear mine. I wear the brimless one, and I wear it backward. But I love my Stormy Chromer, and I am grateful to them. And I want to mention Wildland Coffee. I just got in touch with these guys. It's coffee and tea bag, just like it says. It's meant for on the trail or for, you know, weekend camp out or whatever. And I have a bunch of samples, not a bunch of samples, but enough, I think, for at least one per person. So stop up here at the end and grab one of these, and just do me a favor if you try it. I don't know, post about it or something, or if you want to reach out to them and say, mention me, say you heard about it from me. I sure would appreciate it. But I think it's pretty good. We heated up the water, steamed it for like 5 or 8 minutes.
It was good coffee.
And yeah, it was pretty awesome. So glad for the folks at Wildland Coffee. If you want to read more, or if you want to get inspired, maybe to do a long distance hike, you could start with Bill Bryson's Walk in the Woods. I'm not sure I have a copy of here, but this is a famous book about the Appalachian Trail. It was made into a movie with Robert Redford and Nick Nolte. And he tells a lot about the history of the AT and his attempt to hike it, which he never did. He made it like a third of the way and he went home, or a quarter of the way and he went home. He still to this day has not hiked the whole thing, but he writes very eloquently about it. And we read this while we were out there. It was fun to be on the trail and you know, read about the history of the trail and stuff. It was pretty fun. Walking with Spring is by Earl Schaefer. He was the first person to thru hike the Appalachian Trail. I have a copy of it here. In 1948, he had just got out of World War II, and he was admittedly shell-shocked, and he decided to hike what was known then as the Government Trail. And he started in Springer and hiked the whole thing. And he was kind of a representative of the Appalachian Trail for years afterward. He would appear at, you know, at functions and stuff, and with from Liz Thomas. This just came out a couple years ago. Liz Thomas goes by the trail name Snorkel, and she is a very accomplished hiker. She's Triple Crowner. She specializes in urban hiking. She's hiked in cities like all over the country, all over the world. She has a company now called Treeline Review. And talk about planning, I use Treeline Review because they are like an aggregate review site. So any piece of gear, whether it's headlamps or sling bags, whatever, that's where we found your feathered friends.
Yep.
Go to Treeline Review and they will tell you what backpacker and REI and users, what they all say about it. Very concise information, really useful. And this book was awesome. When Jackie told me she went to hike the AT, this is the first thing I loaned to you. So this is also autographed. Yeah, Liz Snorkel Thomas. Anything by Heather Anderson. Not only the books that I mentioned, but you know, she has a blog. She writes extensively about all her hikes. You know, you can look up and see. If you're going to read one thing by her, she tried to set the fastest known time of the Colorado Trail. She tried to do it while she was through hiking the Continental Divide Trail. So that sounds crazy enough, but she quit. She had injuries. She struggled with the weight of her pack because she got altitude sickness and she had no appetite. She couldn't eat. So her pack weight wasn't going down. She planned on eating like 1.5 pounds of food a day, and she had no appetite, so her pack stayed heavy and she quit. And the reasons beyond that why she quit in her attempt, to me, are fascinating. But I read anything she writes. Through and Back Again by Luke Jordan. Copy it somewhere.
Is it underneath that one from the spring?
Yes, it is. Thank you so much. Luke Strider Jordan is a really fascinating guy. His first big hike was the North Country Trail. It's 4,600 miles. Only at that point, I think 4 people in the world had ever done it all at once. And he started off saying, "I'm going to thru hike that trail." And I remember commenting or him reaching out to me and doing the North Country Trail, and we stayed in touch since then. So maybe that's why I recommend this book, because I'm in it. And Trail Life by Ray Jardine. Ray Jardine is the godfather of the ultralight movement. You know, he's the one who came up with light is fast and fast is fun. And he writes extensively in here about ultralight techniques. He warns you about those glossy ads in Backpacker magazine. He's the one who will preach to you. You think you need it, but you don't. You know, leave it home, go lighter. You can go farther and do more with less. Ironically, his book is like the heaviest thing I own. It really is. But this is a good one to get. Just about time. If you are thinking about hiking, reach out to me. Like I said, you can reach out to people. If I'm not hiking, I like to be talking about hiking. So whether it's a weekend or you're going for, you know, you're going to challenge yourself with a couple weeks here and there, or you can do one of the big trails, you know, shoot me an email and we can hang out and talk about it anytime.